on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today is Thursday. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great week so far. Bitcoin is in fact down over 5%, lined up almost exactly with President Trump's de-escalation speech. So now some people are saying, maybe Bitcoin is actually correlated to some of these events that are happening globally. So that's definitely something I want to go over today. Now you can see basically, we got all the way up to about $8,463, and currently we're sort of sitting around that 7.9K, 7.8K level. So I do want to discuss what could potentially be happening to Bitcoin short term, where Bitcoin could be going. We do have some pretty tight resistances and supports and an apex coming up pretty soon. So we're going to talk about that moving forward. I also want to discuss why Bitcoin's halving may be priced in, but that does not mean that we cannot see an all-time high next year. And I also want to discuss one final thing, and that's the fact that New York State is looking to actually have their own state-backed digital currency. Really, guys? We're going to get into all that today, and also one crazy coincidence that you're definitely going to want to stick around for. Do not miss out on this. We're going to have a great episode today. Keep it super quick. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. If you're not subscribed, number one, I want to say thank you so much. We're up to 95,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers away from getting my verified little check mark. Thank you so much, guys. You rock. And also every Monday, we do give away the Ledger Nano S if you're interested. Now let's dive in. Let's have a look at what is going on right now. Now, obviously, the one thing that's actually kind of interesting is that Bitcoin is kind of hit harder than the altcoins. The altcoins are springing back. In fact, if we switch it to the Bitcoin comparative today, lots of green, whereas yesterday we were seeing mostly red, right? So actually the altcoins are doing a little bit better today as far as having that recovery. Now, some of the altcoins doing quite well include Lisk, Bytecoin, Ren, Ethereum Classic, Electroneum, Bitcoin SV, Monero, Decentraland, and Molecular Future. And the one thing that I was very happy to see is we finally had some good, healthy volume for Bitcoin. $1.2 billion, we will take it. And of course, the Fear and Greed Index has pulled back. We were saying, we were starting to get into that greedy territory. And what do? Be fearful when people are greedy. Be greedy when people are fearful. Well, we did have that 5% pullback. Now, having a look at the correlation, shout out to Sunny Decree, he put this together. We're going to discuss exactly why we saw this impact and whether or not Bitcoin is now just sort of acting as one of these safe haven assets, because it basically moved exactly with gold and oil. So we're going to get into that moving forward, but having a look, you can't deny the technicals, guys. You can call it a coincidence, but we were riding right on that massive resistance from the major downtrend that we've been going on essentially since the middle of, June when we had the high, and we did touch down, but look at this. Look at where we got stomped out. We basically got support around where we had this previous resistance right here. You see where we peaked out, and that is exactly where we've had the support. So as far as the charts are concerned, Bitcoin is kind of just playing out technically how it should be, which is why, people saying that it had anything to do with President Trump, it's kind of a coincidence that it happened, but we're going to talk about that, okay? The one thing I do want to mention short term is we are kind of up against this trend that we've had. You see, we touched 1, 2, and we are pushing against it for the third time. So could Bitcoin potentially try to push back up? We could maybe get rejected again and then bounce back down. That is one possibility, okay? But zooming out at the macro picture, because you got to zoom out, you'll go absolutely crazy looking at these smaller time frames. You will notice that we finally did have our third confirmation on this basically descending wedge that we've had. You can see we had the first one right here at the peak. Then we had our second one right here during the, China pump. And finally, we had this again during the, whatever you want to call it, President Trump situation, right? So it is interesting that this is playing out as expected. Now, if we have a look right here, it does look like Bitcoin could potentially want to come back down and retest this level. Now, if we were to come all the way back down here, even sitting right on the $7,000 level potentially, that still would be healthy for Bitcoin. We would still be putting in a higher low, right? And hopefully we would be looking to reach this apex at around, February 6th or so. So we could essentially just sort of stay trapped in this range. It's possible, right? So don't freak out. If the Bitcoin price does go a little bit lower, not saying that it will, we could have had a full-on reversal, but don't forget, I hate bringing this up. I almost feel like it's a meme after a while, right? But we still have the CME futures gap right down here at around $7,685. Now, I'm not saying it has to get filled. In fact, I don't even understand why these things get filled. Most people don't. We had a conversation with Jacob Canfield. Even he couldn't figure it out. But nevertheless, every damn gap we've had has gotten filled. So there is a good chance that Bitcoin would come down. And And also, just to put it into perspective, if we were to come down and fill this gap short term, look, you're only talking about a 3.14% pullback. What's another 3% at this point, right? And then we could potentially continue on our merry way to a new all-time high. Now, keep in mind, we were also rejected by the 200 daily on the CME. Very important. This provided support right before the 43% pump that we had on October 25th. So I do consider this level very important. Currently, that is around the $8,500 level. So keep that number in mind moving forward, guys, okay? We are getting stomped out as well by the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly. Very significant moving average. You could see essentially, this thing basically kept us afloat during the entire 2016, 2017 bull market. Once we got below it, it really became that final bit of sort of, resistance. Right here, we obviously just gave up, fell below it. Obviously, once Bitcoin was able to get above it on April 1st, well, I don't have to tell you, but currently we are trying to break above it. So I would like to see us short term get above that. However, I do want to just mention really quick what Socrates was pointing out. Now, keep in mind, he was a very big Bitcoin bear, okay? Like a few months ago and even last year, right, with Tyler Jenks, hyperwave theory and all that stuff. Now, he's basically looking at this Wyckoff accumulation schematic, right? Now, he's been talking about this for quite some time, and I'm not going to go into this too much, but essentially, he's looking for us to continue to the upside, essentially, and he is looking for new all-time highs potentially for next year. You can see right here, this is basically all the same things that we've talked about, essentially, but the one thing I like is that he talks about the logarithmic trend line and how Bitcoin has basically touched the bottom, which does signal that this really actually could be the bottom for Bitcoin moving forward, right? I'll drop all this analysis below. I'm not going to go into it too much. I want to keep today's video rapid fire, but here is the craziest chart that I want to show you guys. Now, basically, what we're looking at right here is the halving. And the reason that I have it kind of separated into multiple weeks is because it's based on block time, not actual physical time. So it's sort of a guesstimate of when it's going to happen. But it's probably going to happen sometime between May 4th and May 18th, give or take, right? So having a look at this, you will notice that we have been supported on this trend right here. You can see we touched down and we've respected it. And this is also the downtrend. Now, the crazy thing is on the logarithmic chart, okay, Bitcoin is looking to essentially put in its apex basically exactly at the halving, and you cannot make this stuff up. Look at this chart. It really looks like Bitcoin is leading into the halving almost for like an explosive, massive blast off, which is really interesting because the last two halvings we had, we didn't have an explosive, move when we got to the halving, right? But it looks like that's where we're looking like we want to have that breakout, right? Now, I know what you're saying. It's logarithmic. Take it out of the logarithmic chart. Let's look at linear. Okay, we can also do that as well. Stick with me, guys. Stick with me. So if I switch it to this, you're going to obviously notice that this clearly changes a little bit. So we can honestly just hide this right here. And if we draw brand new trend lines on the, the linear, you guys can see it doesn't really change much. Even if we bring this down, to the actual solid candles, that's even crazier. That means that the apex is basically going to happen exactly at the halving, not like sometime within the potential halving or just before it. So that's the other thing I wanted to point out. So whether you look at this chart either in the logarithmic or the linear, it looks like we are basically leading in directly to the halving, looking for a massive, massive move, hopefully to the upside, right, guys? So I want to just ask you, what do you think about this now that we actually have enough data to plot the lines? This is blowing my mind. It's basically like Bitcoin is just coiling up and winding up for a massive move right before the halving. And keep in mind, that could say that, if we were to bounce around this area, you could still see Bitcoin trading around the 8.5K level, leading all the way into April of this year. Do you have the patience to stick around for that? Now, there is one possibility, one more thing I want to show you guys. For example, if we were to sort of take these, tops of these wicks right here, then you could also argue potentially, depending on where you move this, that maybe Bitcoin could be looking for a breakout a little bit sooner, maybe, the first or second week of February. That is a possibility too. So just keep that in mind. But the overall macro picture is definitely pretty crazy. So let me know what you guys think about that. But I do want to really quick talk about yesterday's news. Basically, you could see Trump says that, Iran appears to be standing down. Okay, so essentially he had his de-escalation speech as they're putting it. Now, here's the crazy thing. Bitcoin usually does not act it doesn't act accordingly to these type of global things, right? It's usually an asymmetric asset. However, you could see right here, the assassination, we have the pump. Trump tweets, U.S. will strike back if prompted. We have the missile strikes, then we had the pump, and then he expresses the desire to de-escalate the situation, and we had the subsequent dump, right? Now, it's interesting because you can argue, well, the technicals, right? The technicals were essentially saying that we were going to dump. We were hitting the line. So very interesting how these lined up. But having a look seriously talking about this, you can see that it's no deny that gold, this is the gold chart, gold got hit. They all kind of put in that like M shape, right? And then they fell. So that was a response to it, clearly. Speculation or not, you can't deny that. Now, Andrew Kang is saying that Bitcoin has never shown much correlation to gold or other store of values until now. He says this is incredibly bullish for Bitcoin. Here's why. He goes into a very long thread, but essentially you could see we have, more people starting to trade Bitcoin on macro events. Bitcoin is actually starting to sort of have that response to these global things that are happening, right? For example, when we had the president of China potentially tweeting about, blockchain, we saw that pump, although it also did line up with the technicals, right? Let me know what you guys think. But, they also say recent economic woes, such as the Fed pumping more freshly printed dollars, is also another reason for people to want to park their money into other things. And they also discuss the feedback loop that will continue, causing Bitcoin to continue to appreciate while capturing premiums from other store of values for enough data to be produced that even the strongest skeptics will not be able to deny Bitcoin's utility. In fact, if you did not check out yesterday's video, definitely check out yesterday's video. I will drop it above right now. There's a great part where Robert Kiyosaki goes into basically why he says cash is trash in his own words. And if you didn't see it, definitely check that out. But nevertheless, we are looking at the halving, which actually now they have updated to May 13th. It was around like May 14th, I think the last time I checked. So we do have around 124 days. It's coming up quicker than you guys think. So the question is the halving priced in? Well, actually, if we talk about what BitPay's chief officer, Sunny Singh, says, he actually says that he thinks it is priced in. But that being said, he also thinks that we're going to breach 20K and see an all-time high. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because he did actually have a pretty damn good prediction when we were around the $3,500 level. He was calling for a $15,000 Bitcoin. But anyway, he says, I think that Bitcoin will pass the all-time high above 20,000 this year. A lot of people think it's going to be because of the halving. He says he believes it's already factored in. He says Bitcoin goes up when the unforeseen things happen. So last year, we had Libra as a potential catalyst. Libra was all over the news, got a lot of focus, a lot of eyes back on Bitcoin again, right? He says this year we have things like China, Russia, India. They could be legalizing Bitcoin potentially. Some new companies, competitors to Facebook could get involved. He says the American government could do something, right? Black swan events, they're unpredictable. You never know when they're going to happen. But you can see right here, he says fundamentally, we've already seen Fidelity launch their product. Square has hired 5 engineers on the Bitcoin side. So all of these large tech companies are already getting into the space. He says you're probably going to see them having new products coming in, making it easier for people to use, right? And once again, there's always the black swan event, right? So just wanted to point that out moving forward. However, you guys got to listen to this story, okay? This kind of, I guess, hits a little bit close to home just because I'm from New York. So you have a pair of lawmakers at Cornell that are teaming up to try to push a proposal that would establish a statewide public alternative to banking in New York. Just New York, not the United States, just New York. So basically, they're looking to have their own state currency, our own New York currency. Why do we need this? I don't know. But basically, they introduced the bill into the state assembly, and they're trying to establish the Empire State's new system called New York's Inclusive Value Ledger. That's right. We might have our own ledger, guys. It was referred to by the Assembly's Committee on Banks. So essentially, the platform would establish a system of individual digital wallets linked to a master account, according to the draft law, and would eventually facilitate everyday transactions. So, no, that doesn't sound a bit totalitarian at all, but hey, maybe that's why they call it the Empire State after all? No? Okay. All right, moving on. That being said, guys, we do have some updates from MoneyGram. A recent report revealed that they saw a 70% increase in transaction volume between December 1st and December 25th compared to the previous year. Outside the United States, the firm registered a 120% increase in online transactions. Why am I bringing this up? Well, I know someone out there is from the XRP Army, and I know that you guys wanted to hear about this news, so there you guys go. We also have some good news from Travala. Very nice. They're pledging 2% of their total revenue. This is really generous. Keep in mind, this is not profit. This is revenue, 2% of their total revenue to the bushfires in Australia. So it's really nice to see the community pitching in. This is what I love about crypto, as toxic as it can get. I love when we pull together and we can actually help to, do something like this, donate to this situation. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, I've also mentioned there's the Binance charity, and there's also the one that Alex from Nuggets News is doing as well. Also talking about Ethereum dodging the difficulty bomb. Had some people say I don't talk enough about Ethereum on this channel. Well, I'm talking about it now. So basically, they had this upgrade that was named after the glacier. Essentially, it patched a mistake in Istanbul. When it was put in place, developers apparently forgot to adjust the feature known as the difficulty bomb that slows down block settlements. Their forgetfulness caused a significant mishap, creating an unplanned reduction of 20% in inflation rate and security on the Ethereum network. However, it has been addressed. Don't panic. At block 9,200,000, they basically took care of this. And yeah, so we're all good. Everything's great. No need to freak out. But speaking of Ethereum, Virgil Griffith has been formally indicted on federal charges. Now, he was the guy that went over to North Korea. And essentially, they basically said that it was to evade tax leveraging using blockchain and cryptocurrency. Remember, he gave a speech. Essentially, people are saying, well, yeah, basically, you can't do this. That he was denied bail for violating the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So listen, guys, we all know what cryptocurrency can do, okay? It does have the power to do it. But it's one thing to get on stage and make that the center focal point of your discussion, also to do this in North Korea as a U.S. citizen. So just take that, in consideration. But moving forward, guys, before we get out on here, I told you I want to try to keep today's video somewhat quick. Just having a look, like Blockport said, prices that the media has declared Bitcoin being dead, wired all the way at $2, $15, $93, $131, $182, $208, all the way up to $479. And we're still seeing reports saying that Bitcoin is dead. Come on. What do you guys think? That being said, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. I know today's update was a little bit rapid. So yeah, we did have that pullback, but it could have very well had something to do, with the situation that happened the other day. So let me know what you guys think about it. That being said, that is it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Everyone that's been liking, subscribing, commenting, you guys rule. Let me know what you think about it lining up perfectly, those apexes right around the halving event. Coincidence or not? You let me know. Also, if you're interested in the Ledger Nano S, drop a comment below. And that is it for me today. Thank you so much once again. My name is K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto and peace out.